We're here with Chris Cannell and Sue Hayes, and two very spectacular sports cars that Chris and Sue have shared over the years, particularly the Force. Chris, the Force is a fairly unique car. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, one-of-a-kind car built for us in 2002 by Force Cars. Runs on two Hayabusa motorbike engines, 1300cc each. Not tuned, just blueprinted to make them a little bit more reliable. Runs on three chains, running through a centre-mounted diff in the back. So we've got equal length drive shafts. Different than most other sports cars, central seating position, which doesn't make it legal for circuit racing, but much better for weight distribution and the setup of the car, basically. Something a little bit unique.
That certainly is unique. Very original thinking and concept altogether there, isn't it?
Yeah. Sometimes can be a little bit unreliable. We're still sorting it out after 5 years, but one day it will come and one day it will take a record somewhere.
I'm sure it will. And some success at Brighton Speed Trials with the car, I remember.
Brighton Speed Trials last year. We've been taking it to Brighton now for 3 years, doing the quarter of a mile sprint. Last year it was the first time that Sue drove it at Brighton, and basically we cleared up. I took fastest time of the day and first in class. Sue took fastest lady and second in class. I took the top six runoff and Sue was third in the top six runoff, but Sue was the one who knocked the most time off her class run compared with her top six run. So we ended up with a bag full of trophies and some rather nice cash to bring home with us.
Sue, did you manage to spend that in one easy go?
No, he kept the lot. He kept every penny.
So this year Chris has got his Spa Judd car that's behind us here. You're driving the Force on your own.
Yeah.
Is that more relaxing for you? Take some pressure off you?
It's much easier, it's much better. I don't get nagged, I can just go out and do my own thing. It's good.
Chris, I don't think you're going to be getting your car back.
I did offer to swap.
Let's see how the SPA goes.
Okay, talking of the SPA, tell us a little bit about it, because this car's new to you, isn't it, last season?
Yeah, a car that I've always hankered after since the very first day I saw it back in '91 at Prescott with Christian Minef driving it. Once again, another one-off car, a little bit unique. Runs a 3.5 Judd CV Formula 1 engine. Still in Formula 1 trim, which does make it a little bit of a handful, especially with me at the moment going through a learning circle with it. I have driven the big V8s before, but more torquier V8s. This one is very revvy and cammy and is taking a little bit of getting used to. But a wonderful car to sit in and drive. And I'm sure we'll get there in the end, but it's just taking that little bit longer.
No, I've watched you coming to grips with the car and looking more and more at home in it all the time, but you're right, it's certainly got some grunt, and it's a fairly big car for a narrow hill, isn't it?
It is a big car, yeah. Although we've measured it up against the Force, which looks smaller, and there's very little difference in width.
Really?
The wheelbase is the same. The SPA is about 70 kilos heavier, but then again it's got 300 brake horsepower more. So you can judge your own differences from that.
Absolutely, and it's a car with the chance of FTD today as well, so good potential for a top 10 challenge, I would think.
The car has definitely got it in it. Whether or not the driver has is another thing. We've had a bit of a fraught weekend. Yesterday was not so good for us. We've had quite a few problems. This morning we've worked on the car and we've just completed our second run, and we have had two really spot-on runs this morning testing the car, and I'm a little bit more confident now than what I was yesterday, but we shall see. I mean, there's some quick drivers out there that have been in their cars for a few seasons now, but I should be trying.
And so the local motor engineer from just down the road in Salisbury brings a 3.5 litre SPA Judd V8 to the line for his first competition run. As Tony said, this is a big car to thread up Gurston down, particularly with the best part of 600 horsepower on tap, but the Gould developed chassis is working well for Cannell, who has yet to match his best time in the twin-engine Force with this much more powerful car. But he stays off the curbs and the car is quick into carousel. A shade too much right foot gets the tail out of the top bend, but a quick lift and the SPA is up and over Deer's Leap. Once the car's pointed in a straight line, he squeezes the throttle and heads for Burke's Rise in the finish. 30.32 is enough for second in class behind former Gurston champion Rodney Thorne's Pilbeam. Now James Blackmore waits for the green light in his Force Hayabusa. One of the quickest drivers on the hills in the 1600cc single-seater class, airline pilot Blackmore has already won the FTD Championship on what used to be his home hill climb at Harewood in Yorkshire. Since moving to the south of England, he looks set to repeat that success here in the Gurston Top 10 Challenge. He's certainly going for it as he flings the car around the hairpin, more opposite lock as he corrects the slide out of ashes, and now it's full power to the line. It's a great run from Blackmore. Not the record, but it is the class win, second fastest time of the day and the lead in the challenge. Back now to Tony Wiltshire, who's with another of today's single-seater drivers.
We're with Paul Webster, who was 99 Gurston champion, driving an Opel Manta. Paul's tried a variety of cars since the days of the saloon car, moving up through a sports car, now with a single-seater Dallara. This is a Formula 3 based car. Paul, what modifications have you done to this car to make it into a competitive hill climb proposition?
Well, basically, we had to change the rear and the front wing. Simon Better, the wing shop, did that for me. The gearbox had to be strengthened for first gear. Starts are obviously quite abusive in hill climbing. And then the fuel tank has a big fuel tank, obviously, for the distances, so we've made a small alley tank. Apart from that, I think that's about the gist of it. Oh, and bigger tyres.
How about dampers and springs? Do you play with those to suit the characteristics of the hill?
Yes, the Formula 3 cars run quite stiff dampers. We've basically halved the damper rate and to give it a bit more compliancy, but it's quite a stiff car anyway, so you've got to do as much as possible.
Yeah. How do you find the Formula 3 car compared with the sports car and the Manta before it? I mean, completely different to drive, I would imagine.
Yeah, the Manta was fun. You threw it around. Back end was very light, and the quickest way was to throw it around. Got to be a bit more precise with this, and that's where I'm struggling a little bit. And also confidence in the wings. You know, it will go around corners much faster than me at the moment.
Right. I think there's a variety of cars that could pull off FTD today, so I think you're in with a shout. And
if I can take hollow fast enough.
Well, it can be done flat, I think, Paul. But,
so I've been told. My right foot won't let it.
Well, you've got to be confident in the car to
Yeah.
achieve that.
Yeah.
Hollow, it is a big commitment bend, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just its slightest lift and it drops 10 mile an hour, just like that.
I imagine that, aero effect will cause that straight away, won't it?
Exactly that. So it's just having the confidence to keep your foot in.
Well, Paul certainly keeps his foot in away from the start line on the first of the day's two competitive runs. Down the hill and into hollow, there's perhaps a trace of a lift, but he's back on the power for the long left-hander that follows. With their strong carbon chassis and good spares availability, these Dallara Formula 3 cars, powered by the 16-valve Vauxhall unit, are becoming very popular in hill climbing's highly competitive 2-litre single-seater class. 30.66 is a quick time, only good enough for second in class at the moment, but there's another run to come. Apart from its impressive polychromatic paint job, Terry Gray's Formula 3 Vault chassis may look familiar. In fact, it's the same car that our presenter Tony Wiltshire drove very successfully for a number of seasons, but Graves has replaced Tony's 2-litre Peugeot engine, which incidentally is destined for one of those popular Formula 3 Dallara chassis, with a 2.4-litre Ford Duratec. Graves is going well in his first season with the car, although he has to use a lot of lock to stay on the black stuff at the top of carousel. He gets it in check for the final stages of the hill, and a good exit from ashes sets him up well for Berkshire Eyes and the run to the finish. Now it's back to Tony in the paddock.
Here we're looking at a Pilbeam MP58 with a Cosworth DFZ engine in it, giving a significant amount of horsepower. This car's seriously got potential for fastest time of day here today. Owner John Forsyth here. John, how much power does the car put out?
Repeatedly about 598.
A healthy amount in a fairly light car.
Yeah, especially in a wet day, it's quite fun.
I'd imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
And yesterday was pretty wet,
It was, yes.
so better luck today with the weather.
Yeah, it opened a lot better, about sort of 4 seconds quicker than it was yesterday, so no, it's okay.
Gurston Top 10 Challenge is all about fastest time of day. I see you're fourth in that championship table at the moment, but today you could improve that.
I hope to improve it significantly.
Well, we wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
Talk to co-driver Dave Gardner now. Dave, wet conditions yesterday, but you managed to pull off FDD, I understand.
Yeah, obviously very lucky yesterday, and John was obviously backing off a bit, let me win.
So looking for a repeat of that today?
Yeah, we're going to try extra hard today now it's drying out. Hopefully we're going to try and go for a sub 30 today.
Very good. This is quite a step up from the car you were running last year, 1100cc force with a motorcycle engine through to the pill beam with a lot more grunt. How does it feel in comparison?
Yeah, the two are totally different cars. Obviously a very revvy and twitchy light force, which leaps about a lot. This is much more planted, but then again, of course, you've got all that torque, so they are very different to drive, but much prefer this, of course.
Yeah, I can imagine an exciting ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
More power than you can
more than you need. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in the wet.
Especially in the wet. Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks very much for your time, and have a good afternoon.
So Dave Gardner pulls down his visor, settles in his seat and prepares to launch almost 600 horsepower of Pilbeam single-seater down the hill into Hollow. Buoyed up by yesterday's win in the wet, he's set to repeat that performance today and smokes the rear Avens off the line. Down to Hollow at around 120 miles an hour, Dave keeps the big car off the curb but gives it full power round the long left-hander to Carousel. Hard on the brakes, he bumps the car over the curves, which might just have cost him those vital fractions. Front wheels clawing the air, the Pilbeam flies over the leap, and with a good clean exit from Ashes, the car heads up over the rise. Crossing the finish line at over 120 miles an hour, 29.49 will leave Gardner third fastest overall. Join us again in a few moments as the battle for Gurston Championship points gains momentum.